Hello, everybody, and welcome to a lecture about the underlying unifying foundation of basic astrology, which sounds a lot more pretentious than it's really going to be. My name is Anthony Picco. I'm a professional astrologer, and this is really the basic stuff that I came to understand. When I first started studying astrology, I was terrified. It seemed like I had to memorize 150,000 things. What's Mars in Cancer like? What's Mars in Cancer in the first house? What's Mars in Cancer in the second house? What's Mars in Cancer? What about Mars in Leo in the first? And it just seemed like zillions of things to memorize. But what happened after a while, I discovered when you really strip astrology down to the core meaning of a lot of the elements of it, you can put it back together. And instead of having to memorize 100,000 things, you actually have to know about 50 to 60 things and learn how to recombine them and understand you can recombine them in 100,000 ways. Okay. So the first image I'm going to start with, and this is kind of a very basic thing. This is the astrology glossary I give out to all of my clients. I'm sure many of you have seen things like this. There's nothing special about it, but it's just a reference point for us. Before I really specifically start talking about this, I want to start talking about the basic core thing, which you start with two things. You start with either negative or positive. You start with either male or female, assertive versus receptive, or yin versus yang, and versus isn't really the right term. But all the signs of the zodiac can be divided into either one or the other. And when I'm saying male and female or positive and negative, I'm not being judgmental here, and neither am I talking about men and women per se, but I'm talking a matter of action. Positive is not good, negative, bad. It's more like a positive and negative electrical charge. One flows one way, the other one flows the other way. If any of you are into plumbing, you know there's male and female parts to the way pipes come together. Okay, and that's what we're kind of talking about. Assertive energy, or so-called male energy, yang energy, is assertive. It moves forward. It takes action. It tends to be more of an initiator, and I'm going to be very careful with my words here. I will say that the other side of it, the female or the negative or the receptive or yin, is much more receptive. It takes things in. There's nothing passive about it. I want to make that very clear. So the positive signs, the male signs, are the fire and air signs. Fire is energy that burns, it moves forward. It just, you hear about fires racing through a building. And air blows all over the place. Then they feed each other. There's a reason they're connected. Fire without air goes out. All the weather we have on the planet is because heat keeps heating the air up and making weather patterns. So these are things that take very distinctive action in the way they move, and that's one of the reasons that they're trining each other, i.e. forming harmonious aspects, and sextiling each other too. There's a couple of oppositions. We'll get into that in just a wee bit. The other side of it, the negative, the female, the yin, the so-called receptive. Receptive is water, and receptive is earth. And when you think of receptive, you take some water and you take some earth and you put a seed inside it, and it's receiving the seed, and it nourishes the seed, and the seed grows as a result. So it's just a different energy level of the way things are approached and how they move forward. And you can split the signs in half this way. We all have a blend of water and fire and earth and air for the most part in all of our charts. So again, nobody's either all male, all female, all whatever. Okay, so what we have here are overlapping patterns. I'm going to put a wheel upon a wheel and show you how much all this stuff repeats itself. And if you can connect the dots between the repetitions, it kind of falls together. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is how signs have polarities to each other. Aries and Libra are two sides of the same coin. It's the same with any opposition in the entire chart. Aries is all about self. Libra is all about partnership. Taurus is all about my money and my stuff and my own solidity. Scorpio is all about other people's money and sex and rebirth and money and other people's resources. Gemini is all about immediate energy and thoughts and what's going on around me and locality. And Sagittarius is about what's over there. What's in the next side? Take it further, go farther with it. Cancer, home, inner self. Capricorn, outer world, public image. Some people refer to Capricorn as the architect and Cancer as the home decorator, and it's obviously they both need each other very desperately to complement each other. Leo, it's all about me. And Aquarius, it's all about serving the world in some way, shape, or form. So, and Virgo is all about the details of serving other people in a very specific way. Accountants, nurses, whatever. And then you go over to Pisces, and it's all about serving everybody and be very compassionate and loving. So already we're starting to say we've reduced 12 signs to 6 polarities. And that helps us understand a little better the way to look at stuff. Next, this picture, it's the same picture as before, but I've divided it up into fire, earth, air, and water by the little colored slices we have here. Now, the thing about the elements, each element has its desires, so to speak. And fire, and I'm going to go through the chart 3 different times, and I'm going to show how each element is manifested 3 different ways throughout the chart. The first 4 signs, I always consider the self-oriented signs, the solo signs. I even use the word selfish. I don't think there's anything wrong with the word selfish. When selfish becomes greedy is when you really have to start worrying about things. So the first 4 signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, all about me. Aries is a fire sign, and the issue with fire is taking action. No matter what fire wants to do, it wants to take action and do something now. Aries does it totally self-oriented. Aries does whatever it wants to do. I thought of something, I'm going to go do it. I wouldn't even call an Aries inconsiderate, because they'd have to really kind of be aware that other people exist in the world. They're not, pure Aries energy isn't really. It's all about, I want to get something done right now. So we move on to Earth. And the mode, the desire of Earth is a certain stability, a certain logic, a certain efficiency, and a reality kind of check. And so Taurus is all about my stuff, my money, my financial security, my possessions, and my values. So it's a self-oriented. Taurus loves to gather stuff. And that's Earth as a solo sign. So we take air, and air is all about I want to think. I'm a very logic-based. I want to work things out, and because it's self-oriented, all Gemini wants to do is think. It wants to gather information. They don't even care what they do with it. They just get information and throw it in the back room somewhere, and they get more information. It's all about they just want to learn things and find out about stuff. And some people accuse Gemini of being shallow, but I wouldn't call it shallow. I think if you know 10,000 things, if you know one thing about 10,000 things, as opposed to knowing 10,000 things about one thing, either direction is deep. Gemini is deep in a sideways kind of way, but it still covers a lot of area. And water is all about I feel. And Cancer, nobody's emotions are more important than Cancerian emotions. They love their emotions. They love to feel them. They love to refeel them. It's one of the things that makes them somewhat sentimental. And it also makes them kind of the master of the home. They're raising children, but it's really about the mother's feelings more than the kids in many ways, shapes, or forms. So we're going to repeat fire, earth, air, and water, but now we've taken it to a different level. Now Leo, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio are the couple signs, okay? Somebody else is involved. So Aries wants to do whatever it wants to do, because that's what fire wants to do. Leo wants to do whatever it wants to do, but somebody has to be watching, okay? Somebody else has to be involved. At least one person. More is better, but at least one person. And Leos make very good friends, because if you properly honor and worship a Leo, they will take care of you and be very loyal with you. So Earth as a couple, Earth wants to be practical and useful and efficient, and you have Virgo, which is about service to others. You'll find they're perfectionists. They're always trying to fix things, make them better. They make great nurses. They make great accountants. They make great pharmacist kind of people, people that are there to help you become better at who you are. So it's all about service to other people. So it's Earth trying to make you more efficient in a couple kind of a way. So we go back to air signs. And they want to think, and what does Libra want to do? It wants to think of itself as part of a balance. It wants to think of itself as part of a couple. Libras are always trying to balance things out, which is why they cover partnerships and marriage and one-to-one relationships and harmony in the sense of balancing things out. And finally, the fourth couple-oriented sign is Scorpio. Well, water wants to feel things. Scorpio wants to feel like they are part of you. They want to merge with you. It's one of the things that probably terrifies us all about Scorpio, because most of us are not even necessarily completely connected to feeling our own emotions, much less discovering somebody that they can merge with, so to speak. So there's a kind of a quality of nervousness when people get close to Scorpios, but that's what they want to do. They want to be so close to someone ultimately that they become, I wouldn't say become part of them, that they merge and become more than just a single person. So now we're back to the old fire, earth, air, and water cycle, but now we're involving the world in our decisions. So you can see how the zodiac is going from singles to partners, and now we're going to go out to the world. And so fire signs, they want to do what they want to do. They want to go where they want to go, and Sagittarius wants to go over there. Okay, they want to take long journeys. They want to take them physically. They like traveling physically, but they're also about long journeys of any kind, spiritual journeys, higher education, higher justice, anything that takes it to the next level and expands it is very Sagittarian. But again, it's fire sign. They want to do it now. They want to move forward and get things going. So the earth sign, as it serves the world, is of course Capricorn. Capricorn has just one basic wish. They want to run the world, okay? They know the best way to do anything. Okay, I'm a Capricorn. And they want to be behind the scenes running things. They see the big picture all the time. They see the world picture. The biggest curse in a way of the Capricorn world energy is that sometimes they don't see the trees because the forest is in the way. Sometimes they have too big a picture and they lose sight of the details. But nevertheless, they want to make the world a better place in an efficient, practical way. So we come to Aquarius, the air sign. It's thinking. What is it thinking about? What can I do to improve the world? Here's where you find the scientists, the cutting edge people, the astrologers, the people pushing the envelope and trying to take it further in ways that help heal or bring things positive to the world. The inventors, the mad scientists. Aquarius is a water bearer. It's not about the water. It's about the act of bringing the water to the village. And that's how Aquarius always wants to serve mankind, so to speak, in a thinking, logical way. And finally, we're back to water. I feel. What do I feel? I feel everything. I feel the entire world. I feel the ocean. I feel your emotions. I feel my emotions. I feel compassion for everybody. And what that refers to, of course, is Pisces, the universal empathetic kind of quality that Pisces has. Just one second. Sorry, a light was in my eyes. So you're seeing patterns here, one on top of the other. Basically what we've done is we've taken the 4 elements and stripped them down. We've taken the 12 signs and stripped them down to 4 pillars with slightly different expressions. You have fire as single, as couple, as air, as single, couple, and group world kind of consciousness. And we do that with all of the signs, okay? Excuse me. So the other thing to consider too, as you're looking at this chart, is that regardless of what sign is on your ascendant, the qualities of Aries are connected to the qualities of Mars and are connected to the issues of the first house. So here we've reduced 3 items down to 1. Again, anything in the first house is going to be expressed in a very Aryan kind of way. You have Jupiter in the first house, you're going to be a very jovial person. It's going to be pushed out front. You have your moon in the first house. Well, you're wearing your heart on your sleeve, so to speak, and everybody knows what you're feeling. We can go through all the planets, but I'm hoping you get the gist of what I'm talking about. Taurus, second house, connected to Venus. The issues of Venus and Taurus and the second house all go together. Values, money, financial security, possessions. And when we're talking about the things you have, it also refers to your talents or your skills, the things you have. So we go to the third house, Gemini. It's about thinking. It's about immediate short trips, local area, Mercury. What's going on over here? What's going on over there? Your neighbors, your immediate environment, your immediate siblings, communication and talking. All of them are connected. Mercury is about talking and thinking. Gemini is about communications. And we move over to Cancer in the 4th house, combined with the moon and the home, the kitchen, the roots of the psyche, your childhood, and your inner parent. I want to make something very clear about the concept of mother and father as I delineate them. Whoever plays the role of mother is the one who makes you happy that you are who you are, regardless of who you are. There's no, ideally, the mother role is supposed to be non-judgmental. It's supposed to be, I love you no matter what you do. We'll get to the father later because that's a whole different ballgame. But it doesn't have to be the female parent that plays that role. Whoever makes you comfortable and accepting of yourself, which is also why the 4th house is so important and what's going on deep inside us. The moon is the most changeable planet, so it connects very easily to emotions, which are one of the most changeable things in all of our lives. Leo and the sun king. Leo is the sign of the king. You obey the king, you worship the king takes care of his friends. The king needs to be seen, so the house is about creative self-expression and pleasure and even romance. This is not marriage or partnership. This is the romance. The zodiac splits up the signs, the marriage and relationships into a couple of different houses at least. But children are also a form of creative self-expression, whether your children are photographs or poems or paintings or music, or whether they're actually blood and flesh children. That's the creative self-expression that comes. So you can see again, Sun and Leo in the 5th house all have common connections. Virgo and Mercury, very detail-oriented, very fussy. This is about work and work habits. It's about service to other people. The 6th house is about your work environment and your health. Virgos can be very health-oriented and very dietarily oriented, because they're all about taking care of the details to make everything function better. It's also the house of small pets, but that's not really germane to what we're talking about here right now. So Earth, Virgo, Mercury, and the 6th house all kind of work together. So we roll into the 7th house. Venus again turns up, so it's about partnerships. Libra's about partnerships, and the 7th house is about one-to-one relationship. It's about marriage, it's about partnerships. It's also about open enemies, because if you actually have an open enemy, you have a declared relationship. So relationships are not necessarily about peace and harmony, but they are about balance. And that's the balance you get in the 7th house of Libra. So moving along, we get a little intense here. Scorpio is the 8th house. It's connected to Pluto. Traditionally, it's been connected to Mars, and you can drag Mars in there, but I think Pluto has the depth necessary to truly understand Scorpio, because Scorpio is about sex, death, and rebirth. When you talk about Scorpio sexuality, it's the really basic primordial sexuality. You have to have sex to have life. You have to have death to have life. You know, one of the things we paid for to have sex was that we had to die. Before then, if we just split like amoebas, nobody had to die. But with to get sex, we had to die and have rebirth. And it's also symbolically rebirth too, and renewal. Money from others and other people's resources is part of the opposite, being the opposite of Taurus. But again, it's about getting something and being reborn. I do want to mention, of those of you that don't know this, Scorpio actually has 3 different symbols for it. The most common one is the scorpion, and it's kind of the most base form or representation of Scorpio. But we take it to the next level, and it becomes the eagle, which is a more evolved form of Scorpio. And then ultimately, the highest expression of Scorpio is the phoenix bird, which, if any of you remember your myths, the phoenix burns up and rises reborn out of its own ashes. And this is the intensity and the depth of why the 8th house is so heavy, so to speak, and why Pluto is connected there. So we go into Sagittarius in the 9th house with Jupiter. It's about expansion. It's about growth. The entire 9th house is about taking it further. Jupiter is about expansion. It's the largest planet. It's about learning new things. It's about higher education. Anything in the 9th house is going to be expressed in an overseas traveling kind of a way. You have a lot of planets in the 9th house. You may end up being a world traveler, or you may literally end up being a preacher or a spiritual shaman of some kind, or shaman. I'm not sure which is the correct pronunciation, because there's this whole expansion out above and beyond day-to-day life. So Jupiter's expansion, and it's the biggest planet we have, which when we go to Saturn, Saturn is the second largest planet, but it has rings that hold it back. And here lies in the connection to Capricorn in the 10th house. It's about self-control. It's about focus. It's about not overdoing things. That's Saturn. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So of course they want to rule the world with the proper structure. It's all about your public image and your sense of authority, which comes with experience. The 10th house is about career, not about work. Your workplace is the 6th house. The 10th house is your career. Not everybody has careers. Okay, some people are happy. They got all their planets down in the 4th house. They just have a job so they can go home and hang out with their family. But some people have careers, and that's the 10th house. And finally, the father image is the 10th house. And what I see is the role of the father or the outer parent. This is the parent that introduces you to the outside world. Mommy may love you no matter what you do, but the outside world will smack you hard if you don't misbehave, if you misbehave. And if you don't respect the people who are experienced and have the authority, whether they're correct or not, you have to listen to them. So these are what I see as the inner and outer parent. Does not have to be the actual mommy or the actual daddy that introduces you to that. We go to the 11th house, and Aquarius brings in Uranus. Now, that's the newer ruler of Aquarius. It was originally ruled by Jupiter, and there certainly are qualities of Aquarius that are Jupiterian because they want to expand and come out with new ideas. But Uranus is the planet of weirdness. And so to a certain degree, there's a kind of a flakiness, there's a kind of originality to Aquarians. That's why they're inventing new stuff. You know, Jupiter can expand, but Uranus says, why don't you do it this way or this way or this way? And that, as a result, is what happens in the 11th house with Aquarius. The 11th house is about friends. It's about peer group friends. We're not talking about your buddy that you tell everything to. That's over in the 7th house. But the 11th house is about peer groups and group goals. We bring about the future by uniting with other people and coming up with new ideas and new concepts. So that means it is also about activism. And what is activism? It's very Uranian. It's overturning the way things are now to make things better and different. So you can connect once again, 11th house, Aquarius, and Uranus. And finally, we move into, oh, wait a second, I completely screwed up Aquarius. Oh my God. Brain short-circuited. Aquarius's original ruler was Saturn, and it was about precision and control and focusing things. And then it realized it had to be a bit weirder. Jupiter was the old ruler of Pisces. And that made sense because you had this kind of expansion and universal growth, but Neptune fits it much better because Neptune is truly about everything that exists in a non-physical way. The physical world rises up out of our dreams and out of our fantasies, and that's where Neptune really is in our spirituality. So Pisces is about the 12th house is about universal compassion. It is about karma. It's about your dreams. It can be about your secrets, your subconscious awareness. The 12th house is the subconscious, not the stuff we always have a direct, linear, logical contact to. And that's how Neptune kind of comes in. To really contact with Neptune, you've really got to be very intuitive and not as logical. So it's one of the reasons it's the 12th house. And it's also one of the reasons you connect with all that is and everything that exists. When you're one with the universe and you're aware of it, Neptune is involved. So the 12th house can symbolize that. But also you can make mistakes, and Neptune can run you off the correct track and make you have fantasies and lies. So that's why sometimes it is about the house of service and the house of confinement, prisons and debts or karma that you owe to other people. So here once again, we've taken 3 items in each house and made them all one because you understand that they're all connected. Neptune and Pisces is connected, and so is the 12th house, etc., etc. So just checking the time. I'm whizzing along here. Okay, the next image, another layer we're going to put on top of that wheel of all the signs of the zodiac, are the Triplicities, which are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And here you can see I've obviously put cardinal in, that's Aries and Cancer and Libra and Capricorn. And the fixed signs are Taurus and Leo and Scorpio and Aquarius. And the mutable signs are Pisces and Gemini and Virgo and Sagittarius. All of these are different modalities. Generally speaking, cardinal signs tend to be a little more dynamic and spontaneous. Fixed signs tend to be a bit more stable and reliable on some level. And mutable signs are a bit more flexible and adaptable and changeable. To strip it down even further, cardinals are innovators, fixed signs are maintainers, and mutable signs start changing it up. And one of my favorite analogies for this, one of my favorite stories, I got this from Demetrius Bagley, who is an astrologer in the New York area, and he tells this little story to explain the concept of cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal signs are innovators. They come along. Let's say they discover bread. They take some wheat, they bake it, and they go, hey, look, I've made bread. I've created something new. And the fixed signs take it, and they're all sort of like, yes, bread. We love bread. You want to have some bread? I'll have some bread. Bake some more bread. Yay, bread is wonderful. And it gets carried along until it becomes kind of a standard. And then the mutable signs are kind of like, wait, you know, this bread, man, it's like boring me. You know, let's cut it up and make croutons for our soup, and let's crumble it up, and we can, like, you know, deep fry chicken, make deep fried breaded chicken. And they take the bread and they start messing with it and trying out different things. And then finally, at the end of mutable, everything's been done that can be done to bread. And then the cycle starts all over. Another cardinal sign comes along and says, I've invented soup, and off they go again. Okay, so that's the concept behind the cycle of cardinal, fixed, and mutable: the initiator, the maintainer, and the flexible one. Cardinal signs will tend to initiate. Fixed signs can be a little stubborn because they like things the way they are. They're not necessarily against change, but the attitude of a fixed sign is, we've been doing it this way for 700 or 800 years. Why do we want to change it? We're mutable, like, yeah, I like it. I don't like it. Let me try this. This works. Whatever it is, we'll keep rolling along. So as you can see, we're laying layer on top of layer here. And as long as we're dealing with cardinal, fixed, and mutable, I want to take another analogy and point out that the cardinal signs in tropical Western astrology, not in Vedic astrology, all start seasons. The initiators, you have Aries starts spring, Cancer starts summer, Libra starts fall, and Capricorn starts winter, and they're all on key points. Either the equinoxes or the solstices are when the season starts. So it makes sense to a certain degree that an initiating sign is also kicking off a season. And then when you get into the middle of the season, you have the fixed signs. You know, during Taurus days, we're not going to talk about global warming. Traditionally speaking, during Taurus days, it's spring. It's spring for like a month and a half. It's about the same kind of weather, roughly. There's some rain. Same thing with Leo in the middle of summer, August. It's hot, but it's consistently hot. And we're talking about the temperate climates. It's consistently fall when Scorpio gets into place. You're harvesting, the weather's a little variable, but it stays kind of generally fall. The leaves are dying. We're getting ready for more rebirth. And we go to the middle of winter, and February. If you don't think February is cold and dead in the middle of winter, then you must live, I don't know, in Florida. And finally, the mutable signs are when the weather's beginning to change again. You know, you're getting into late spring with Gemini, and we're getting hot days and cold days. You're getting into late summer, and we're beginning to move into fall during the Virgo days, but we're not quite there yet. There's still some Indian summer we have to go through to get things through, as the term is. I hope that's not politically incorrect. Sagittarius, we're getting to the very end of fall, and we're moving into winter. Is it going to snow yet? I don't know. Does it snow on Thanksgiving? We don't know yet. Let's see what happens. It might not. Same thing with the end of winter. We're starting to get crocuses come up right when we're getting around to Aries time as we're moving through Pisces. So there's this seasonal cycle that goes through the chart. And the other cycle that we can lay on top of this chart, the chart, is life cycles, okay? If you really think about, let's go back one chart. And if you really look at this, Aries, the first 4 signs are your childhood in a way. You know, it's all about me when you're a kid. I mean, you've got a lot to learn and there's things to make sense out of, But Aries is like a baby, a newborn baby. It wants to stand up. It wants to push forward. It wants to put that in its mouth. It doesn't even care what anybody's trying to tell it what to do. And then we get into possessions, and we get into thinking and emotions. And these are the basic things you learn when you first come into life. Okay. So we move along, and suddenly we're aware of other people as we get older. We go out to school, we discover there's people other than family members. And you have Leo and Virgo and Libra and Scorpio, where you start making friends. As you get a little later there, you get to your teen years, you start getting into Libra stuff and Scorpio stuff and boyfriend, girlfriend, or just romantic love in general, and understanding partnerships. And then you go out into the world. You expand out into Sagittarius. That could even be college. It works for higher education. Capricorn, you get your first job. Maybe by Aquarius, you're understanding what your point is in the world, what you're supposed to be doing in the world. And then as you get even older, Pisces enters the picture, and now you're more compassionate and more aware, ideally, as you get older and wiser, so to speak. And then you finally merge back into the universe until you pop up again as a new baby Aries. So once again, we have another pattern on top of the astrology wheel. We have the cycle of life, along with the cycle of a year. And along with the cycle of the cardinal, fixed, and mutable, making qualities go over and over again. So there's really a wonderful stripping down here to core meanings and realizing you can build them back up. Now, there's a number of books out there that some astrologers refer to as astrology cookbooks, and they're usually the books that list an explanation for every little bit of stuff that you can look up on a chart. And these are the books that have, Mars in Cancer means this, Mars in Leo means this, Mars in the 10th house means this, Mars in the 10th, okay. And they're useful books. But as long as you remember that they're books of ingredients, okay? And it's up to an astrologer to really put a chart together and make sense out of it and understand what the difference is. You know, you may be reading a cookbook and it'll say garlic is really wonderful. And then when you're getting ready to make lemon meringue, there's no garlic ingredients. And you may look at it and go like, well, then is garlic good or is lemon meringue good? And that's where an astrologer comes in and realizes that, you know, sometimes you're having dessert and sometimes you're making tomato sauce, and that's what you use for each individual thing. And that's one of the things to realize when you're looking at cookbook astrology, so to speak, and it's very common online. You'll find pieces of a person, but the skill is to find out what balances what and what becomes stronger than the other. I'm sort of running out of things to say here and ending up a little sooner than I expected. Maybe I spoke too fast, but if there's any questions, if anybody wants to start a discussion or take this further, I'm happy to do so. Anybody there listening wants to ask a question, turn their mic on, whatever it might be.
Yes, thanks, Anthony. I have a question about the seasons. I'm down here in the southern hemisphere in Australia, yeah. And the reason I learned recently why Aries starts spring in the northern hemisphere and Cancer starts summer, Libra starts fall, and Capricorn starts winter in the northern hemisphere is because that is where astrology was discovered. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that? And can you comment on this, please?
Well, yeah. Yeah, that is kind of awkward. You know, what's also interesting is that no civilization that started below the equator ever developed a written language. I don't know what that means, but there is something definitely curious about the way we divide the hemispheres in terms of what I would say a spiritual connection. I'm not saying one is better than the other or anything of that sort, but there's definitely a difference. And I don't really have a direct answer. I can't say I've done a lot of Australian charts, but I'm going to assume that they follow the same rules. I mean, Linda, you're an astrologer. I assume maybe you've done some charts and they probably follow the same rules. I'm at a loss. I can only say, yes, it was developed on the northern half of the globe, and at least the part of the globe that we consider the top. Because for some odd reason, there's a general consensus that that's the top of the globe. But really, if you step out into space, what is the top or the bottom? What difference does it make? You know, why do we assume it goes one way is not the other? So no, I wish I could come up with a better answer than that. But no, I have no idea why, but I know the charts that I have done for people below the equator seem to match the northern half of the world's beliefs, but I don't have enough experience to genuinely make an informed comment on it. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Anthony. And does anybody else have a question?
The only question I have is this going to be pushed out to YouTube? I love the basics of this and how folks, I could point them to this future recording. I like it. Great for beginners who are just getting their feet wet and want to have a nice overview like this.
I do want to mention, by the way, I want to give some credit to Stephen Forrest in the book, The Inner Sky. He put some of these ideas out there in terms of stripping things down and putting them back together. And it's one of the first books that finally started making sense out of astrology way back 30 years ago when I first started really studying it. So I'm not copying his stuff here, but it's definitely there's an inspiration from Stephen Forrest in The Inner Sky.
That's wonderful. I refer that book to people a lot. That's good. It's nice and compact, and people love video, so I like to share, concepts with people that are just getting started. To have it over and over again, to reinforce it. So thank you. This was great.
I'm glad. It's like I tried to put everything in a nutshell for as quickly as possible to anybody jumping in the deep end for astrology. So my pleasure. I truly enjoy doing it. And just to be an egomaniac, I have a radio show on the internet on Monday evenings, and I interview astrologers and psychics and animal communicators, energy healers, mediums, and all kinds of metaphysical people. So if you're not doing anything, 9:30 to 11 p.m. on Monday evenings in the Eastern time zone in the United States, tune in, and you can hear lots of fascinating people talk about lots of interesting stuff.
Okay, so Anthony, would you like to wind down, or shall we continue with some questions?
If there are questions, I'm happy to take them. If I can answer them, the trick questions about Australia, I can't handle. But
okay.
Anybody has any curiosity, sure.
I had a comment on what you all on Linda's question. Maybe it's not necessarily the mark of the seasons, but the tasks that that were traditionally performed at that time of the year, regardless of the season,
Yeah, I think that definitely could be it. I think that definitely has something to do with it. A lot of astrology was created when farming was the major job that everybody had. And I think it's very clear that Capricorn, if you're getting ready for winter, you're preparing in advance. And there's the qualities of Capricorn, because you've got to prepare in advance to survive the winter. When Cancer starts, the things are planted and you're basically hanging out and building a home and raising a family while the food grows. So yeah, I think there are task-oriented qualities to the time of the year connected to astrology, definitely, based on the northern seasons, but yes. Anyone else?
I have another question. You attributed 3 levels to the Scorpio archetype of lizard, eagle, and phoenix.
Well, Scorpion, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go on, yes.
Scorpion,
Scorpion.
eagle, and phoenix, yes.
Okay. Could we apply 3 levels to the other signs?
I can imagine it would be possible. The one I have seen that commented on the most is Scorpio. Isabel Hickey makes a big thing about that in her book, Astrology of Cosmic Science. And I think I have seen all the levels of Scorpio in terms of, I've met plenty of Scorpions and I've met a few Phoenixes. I believe Libra, I remember someone recently telling me that Libra was originally the wheels of a chariot, and it now became the balance instead. And I think part of it was Libra was at one point a more interpreted a little more warlike, because truly Libras make great warriors, because Eisenhower was a Libra. So you certainly have the idea that, open enemies is part of being a Libra, and they know how to be a warrior. So I believe Montgomery Taylor mentioned to me recently that Libra was originally the wheels of a chariot, a warrior's chariot, and then it became the balance symbol. I would imagine if you dig deeply enough into old-time astrology, you'd find more examples of different symbols. Scorpio is the one I'm most familiar with, and then recently I learned about the Libra has at least two symbols.
Great, thank you. And one final question from me. When you're looking at an archetype, you know, you have a house, you have a sign, an element, a mode, it's in a quadrant, etc. And, you know, there is so much information. And sometimes it can be very confusing, like trying to put it all together. Do you have like the order of the way that's done, or any tips?
Every astrologer, of course, has their own way of doing it. But here's how I start looking at a chart. I mean, I get the chart, I draw it up, and of course, the first three things I notice right away are the sun and the moon and the rising sign. I don't really get into houses right away. The first thing I look for is aspects. If the sun has got some strong aspects to it, or the moon has got some strong aspects to it, those are going to be overbearing qualities. Overbearing is not quite the strong qualities. If the sun is conjunct Saturn, I have a Cancerian guy I know, his sun is conjunct Saturn, you'd think he was a Capricorn. So anything conjunct the sun or making a strong aspect to the sun or the moon is going to have a profound influence in the chart. I also find that aspects from the personal planets, Mercury, Moon, Venus, and Mars, that aspect out to the outer planets, so we're talking Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, tend to make the person a bit more involved in the current society. I think you can be born and live through an era and not be directly connected to the events of the era, but if you're connected to the outer planets, you're usually connected to the qualities of any given era, whether it's, you know, Pluto and Gemini and the revolution of all communication at the beginning of the 20th century, or whatever it might be, Pluto and Leo and the Me generation. So those are the things I consider strongest. Rising sign, anything conjunct the angles too, by the way, I find very strong in a chart. The angles, of course, being midheaven, nadir, ascendant, and descendant. Houses I have mixed feelings about, only because there are so many house systems. The reason I don't mind using the angles is because we all agree where the horizon is, which is the ascendant descent line, and we all agree where straight up is the midheaven, and where straight down is, which is the nadir. So that's something that all systems agree on, and then we get into all the fights about Placidus or Koch or Alcibiades or equal house or whole sign houses. So I tend to start with aspects, and I'm more concerned if you've got Saturn opposite Venus, that's going to tell me a lot more than even what sign the planet is in. I actually take signs after the aspects. I see Saturn conjunct the sun, I'm going like, whoa, we got a Capricorn energy here. I see sun conjunct Uranus, I'm going, oh, we got a firecracker here. It might be a Capricorn firecracker, it might be a Pisces firecracker, or your Aquarian firecracker. But that's why I take planets first and then start adding the signs in as nuances. Because if a person's got moon square Mars, they're going to have a temper. They're going to have emotional temper tantrums on some level. The signs they're in will clue me into what areas of life and how they're going to have these temper tantrums. But right off the bat, I'm going to see moon square Mars, and I'm going to say temper. Okay, does that make sense what I'm talking about?
Yes, that does make sense. Yes.
So like if I see, you know, the sun is part of the apex to a T-square, for example, that's going to be major aspect patterns will always be very important. T-squares, grand trines, not so much. They're important, but they flow so harmoniously. You don't have to sweat them as much. Whereas a T-square, you have to steer it. There's a missing leg to it, and the planets are kind of, they're causing a lot of energy, they're creating a lot of friction, but they can work together. But a good native has to steer their T-square and get involved in it directly and learn the lessons before they can handle it. So I always look for things that are going to agitate a person. Squares, T-squares, oppositions, not so much, although they're considered a difficult aspect. The great thing about oppositions is sooner or later they can balance each other out. Whereas a square is always at 90 degrees to each other. It's friction, and it doesn't matter. Even if you learn to master a square, you've always kind of got to be aware of what the square or T-square symbolizes in your chart. So that's important in some way, shape, or form, difficult aspects. And of course, anything the sun, moon, and conjunct the angles are the strongest strongest things.
Thanks.
Fire away.
Anyone else? Okay, well, we'll wind down here. Thank you very much. Would you all please now thank Anthony Picco?
Thanks, Anthony.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I hope it made sense. It's one of my favorite topics. Okay.
Thank you.
Made
Thank
lots
you.
of sense. See you again
Also,
soon.
Anthony, could you put your radio link?
Oh, the radio link is, it's the radio
You
station.
can just, for all of us.
Okay, I'll post it on the Zoom thing, but it's www.hayzradio.com. You go to that website and you can locate Cosmic Tuesdays, which is the name of my show, but it's on Monday evenings because I'm that way. What can I tell you?
Awesome.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.